Welcome to episode 1097 of The Sleeper and the Best. I'm Justin Mason, joined as always on Sundays by Jason Collette. Jason, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well, man. It is start of it's been a gross weekend around here. You and I were talking off air. So we've been doing a lot of house projects. So this time together with you this morning is quite welcomed. Because I'm still rather sore from doing all the stuff around the house yesterday, and I got to get back to it once you and I finish today.
Yeah, well, I'll try to keep you as long as I can from it.
Thanks. But, let's filibuster, man. I told the wife I'm ready to go as soon as we're done here, but I wasn't sure how long it was going to take. And so, if you want to read a phone book here on the podcast, let's go for it.
Do they even make phone books anymore? I don't know that they do.
Get one about every year. It drops off like the yellow pages, and I'm like, okay, it's not thin, but it is. I want to pull an old. I forgot the politician that read a phone book as part of his filibuster, but I may have an old baseball prospectus or something laying around here. I can try to.
Yeah, I got a few of those behind me. We can go through some old years of the prospectus. It is football Sunday, so we thoroughly expect a lot of people having
Commanders undefeated, baby. Woo!
Yeah, there we go. And we have a good chance of potentially staying undefeated going up against Jacksonville Jaguars. But there won't be a lot of football talk for us because the Commanders suck. So that, that makes it easy.
Trickle down suck too. It's the suck is all the way at the top and it just trickles down the roster.
Yep. It's poison from the get-go. So let's jump in because there was some really, really big news dropped right after Paul and I finished recording on Friday, and that was the new rule changes for 2023 were announced. I joked on Twitter that MLB are the kings of making changes to problems that don't exist, and not facing the challenges that actually exist. So, but I want to hear what you think about these rule changes from a baseball perspective, and more importantly, from a fantasy baseball perspective, because I think some of these rule changes are going to have a potential dramatic effect on how we approach drafts in 2023. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, my first reaction to all of it was, how butthurt baseball gets when anybody announces a trade or a personnel move during the playoffs, right? So why are you announcing these things right now in the middle of a pennant drive? Everybody's trying to do, and you're going to drop this on Friday, right? It's like, I guess they're trying to do that to then get the other side talking. I don't know. That aside, for me, I'm mostly a fan of all this because I've seen a lot of it in practice in the minor leagues this year. Here I've gone to games at Charlotte, Kannapolis, and I even went to an Atlantic League Gastonia game last weekend. So I have seen every single one of these things in play this year multiple times. The one thing I didn't see in this was the automated ball strike system, which has, to me, been the best part of any of these games I've been to this year. For those of you guys watching this on video, it is as simple as this. The batter or the catcher can call for a replay. They touch their helmet. The umpire turns around, puts his hand in the air. The PA announcer says this pitch is being reviewed. They put it up on the scoreboard, much like the same tracker that you see when you're watching a broadcast. And if it catches any part of the zone, it's strike. And I'm telling you, this process takes 5 to 7 seconds. It is beautiful. I would love for this to happen, especially the other night when the Rays lost to the Yankees, when Clay Holmes struck out Yandy Diaz on a pitch that looked below the zone. I would have loved for hey, let's review this, because it would have been ball 4. And so that's where I would love to see that process in place. But some of the other things, the shift thing, I absolutely hate. Cannot stand this. It's dumb that they're going to have to, because they've put guidelines out on like, hey, this is where everybody. It's just yet another responsibility out there. If a team wants to do it, they should be able to do it. I think Mike Petriello had a nice thing that said, it's like the extreme shifts are going to be taken away. You can still put the shortstop pretty much right behind second base as long as they've got another foot on the other side. So it's like it's going to be the extreme, like to put 3 guys on the other side of second base. And I would love somebody to dive into all the numbers. I saw Mike tweeting about it a little bit. I don't know if he's written it out yet, but I'm sure I want to get into like the numbers and say, okay, how much of the shifting that we see would be defined as extreme? I know you can do that in Savant Search. I just haven't had time to do it over the last 2 days, but I know you can do that. Yeah, because I was having a conversation on Twitter with Lone Star Ball yesterday about Nathaniel Lowe, because he's having a great season, and one of the things like Adam observed that Lowe has been more willing to hit the ball the other way against some of these shifts, and like some soft contact the other way. And he was curious about, hey, what's going to happen when they can't shift him as much as they've shifted him. And so that's who I'm going to dive into as I write my Collect Calls installment this week, because Lowe's having a phenomenal season. When I looked the other day, he was one of 5 guys that was hitting 300 and had 20-plus home runs, with Goldschmidt, Judge, Arenado, and Machado being the other 4. Nobody would have predicted that coming into the season, yet here we are for him. So that thing, from a fantasy perspective, the bigger base is going to be huge. Between the bigger base and the limited pickoffs, it's going to be huge.
Yeah,
bases, huge. Just in the minor leagues alone this year, and JJ Cooper had an article about it at Baseball America. If you don't subscribe, he tweeted out some of the information at JJ Coop 36. Some of the graphs, stolen bases have been pretty much flatlined across the majors, a little bit of a dip last year. And then this year with the new rules in play with the bigger base up, we're talking like 78% success rate in stolen bases. And so I've seen some aggressiveness in the games. I've probably been to about 20 minor league games this year, and guys have been on the move more with that. And the pitch clock thing as well. Honestly, most of these things are not noticeable while you're at the game. The pitch clock thing, I would say once a game, a pitcher would not deliver the ball in time, and the umpire would like put a hand up. There's been a ball, because it would just point to the clock and they move on. I would see it like once a game, maybe. I think I saw it twice in the same game. But these things are realistic. They reduce the time of game by about 20 minutes. Overall, but it's going to be curious to see the impact that it has on offense, because right now we're accustomed to seeing batters taking a close second strike, wanting to step out, try to think through, okay, what's going to come, and they have the time. But now, if you've got 14 to 18 seconds between pitches that you got to deliver, you could see pitchers getting up there, give me the ball, okay, I'm going to do the Mark Burley special, or I'm going to throw that ball as quickly as I receive it. And go back. So it'll be curious to see how that impacts that. So I would say on the whole, between the reduction in shifts, but the expediting the time between pitches, honestly, I could see that being a wash on the batting average side of things. We could also see shorter outings, because these pitchers aren't going to be able to take that little bit of rest between some of these pitches as they tried to do. They may have to having to work more quickly may have an impact on how long they can stay in the game. But I am excited to see more stolen bases. And we talked about this in the offseason. We wanted to see more running. And it feels like we have this year on the whole. But this is definitely going to show more stolen bases next year. So it's like one of the things I want to do here early in 2023 draft prep season is starting to look at, if the forecast – we should be looking for more stolen bases and who's going to, how that's going to impact, because it's going to go up. Every single league went up this year with that. And so I'm excited with that, because, again, running a guy from first to second is more likely to score. We're going to see more run scoring. Then it's going to factor into ERAs as well. So, I hope you've enjoyed this year of really good ERAs, because it's short.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. I think that the biggest impact is really, one is going to be on offense, but really going to be on pitchers. I just think that we're going to see guys, especially guys who do not have huge strikeout rates that rely on the ball coming into play, be less prioritized by MLB teams. So the Miles Michelases of the world, guys like that, are probably going to be less prioritized by teams, which means I'm going to be more aggressive on starting pitching than I normally am, I think, because I want guys who are going to be able to rack up innings and rack up strikeouts at the top, because I think starting pitchers, they're not going to want balls to go into play. There isn't a shift behind them. All the craziness with what's going to go on with stolen bases and guys, them not being able to throw over to first more than once at an at bat. I just worry that ERAs are going to go up dramatically. And so starting off my drafts with a pretty strong base in terms of starting pitching with guys, and I'm really going to prioritize guys who get really good strikeout numbers too.
I didn't read into all the specifics on what they're looking to put in play. Does the throwing over to first include back picks by the catcher?
I don't believe so.
Okay. I mean, that's at least one way to keep them a little honest is some back picks. Because I know one school of thought would be like, okay, you've thrown over twice. Now you can't throw it over. I'm going to take a bigger lead. Yeah. But then again, somebody's going to back pick, but some of these guys are going to have to work on moves.
The way that it's written is that pitchers are limited to 2 disengagements, either a pickoff or step off per at bat. Now that resets if the runner advances. So the runner steals the base, then you get your 2 back for that. But they're just trying to prevent pitchers from throwing over 3 times, 4 times in an at bat. But there are going to be guys who take pretty large leads.
Yeah.
In an attempt to steal a base, or at least give themselves an opportunity if the ball is in play to get the second much quicker. So I think stolen base numbers are going to go up a huge amount. I think batting averages in general, especially for guys like Joey Gallo, that hit into the shift really, really often. Bryce Harper could legitimately be a top 5, 7 pick next year without a shift in play. So obviously there are going to be lots of articles coming out this offseason pointing out which guys hit really poorly against the shift, which guys have huge stolen base potentials. But I think that every guy is going to have, any guy who can steal a base is going to get an opportunity a lot more often this year. So I think it's going to be really, really interesting.
It should be interesting because it's going to give us some more writing, more topics for writing. I'm just looking up some numbers here just to do the math. So reminder to folks that the league-wide stolen base success rate this year is 75% at the major leagues. In the minor leagues, it's been closer to 78 with the extra size in the bag with this. And I was just looking at stolen base opportunities league-wide this year. We've had 2,100. That's not the great number because I need to add the attempts too. So we've had a total of 2,813 stolen bases attempted in 57,108 opportunities. And reminder, opportunities is being on first or second with the next base unoccupied. And so, the league is not running that often. When I do the math, it's 0.049. So it could be, and we've only had the Rangers and Marlins are the only 2 teams that have stolen 100 bags this year. Minnesota is 29 of 45 in stealing bases this year. They're bringing up the rear. Thanks, Byron Buxton. Really appreciate that this year, man. Drafted you, thought you were going to run, and not only did you get hurt, even when you were healthy, you weren't running. Awesome. So yes, I'm excited. Again, I'm just excited for stolen bases, but it is going to have that impact on ERA because you're going to have more runners from scoring position with a higher likelihood of scoring from second base with that because with the extra walks, and that could be another side effect of things too with the shorter recovery time between pitches. Maybe command falters a little bit. You get more walks on this. I like your idea of being more aggressive on pitching. Maybe not being more aggressive on closers. I heard, I think Jeff Erickson and Fred Zinke on the RotoWire podcast were talking about, hey, your return. There was a lot of main event push on some of these closers, and Hader and Hendricks, and those 2 haven't worked out very well. But Edwin Diaz did after so making that push on starting pitching. It seems getting worse every year. And this year, people were rewarded for it about being aggressive with starting pitching because the ratios have been so awesome this year, especially now and earlier in the season when the ball just wasn't going anywhere. It went a little bit over the summer, but outside of the heat wave that you and your area were experiencing earlier this week, the ball just really hasn't done much in September and late August. So we're back to a decent run environment. the 17-4 game last night in Baltimore aside, when you see Devers go 425 oppo for a grand slam, that's impressive.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about some guys hitting the IL. Starling Marte, he's hitting the IL with a non-displaced fracture of his finger. The Mets are in a fight for the division, so in spite of the fact that he was hoping to avoid the IL, they're going to put him on the IL, but they're also going to bring up Mark Vientos, which is one of their top prospects. Any interest in picking up Vientos and FAAB today?
Yeah, I saw him play here in Charlotte a couple of weeks ago. Syracuse was here. In fact, Darryl Strawberry was signing autographs, and the line went all the way around the concourse, all the way from past foul pole to foul pole with it. But he really stood out as somebody that had the skills. I think he had 2 home runs in the game, or a home run, and then a double off the wall. Has got some athleticism as well. His overall numbers in AAA have been impressive this year. So yes, he was somebody that was, stood out in the game that I attended. And when I saw him as somebody being bumped up, that intrigued me. I know he hasn't run in AAA this year, but he certainly has hit for power and knows how to get on base. So I would be putting money in on him this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a guy who has the potential to, hit a number of home runs rest of the way. And I don't necessarily think the Mets would be bringing him up if they weren't anticipating playing him. Only problem is he's had a pretty close to 30% strikeout rate this year in AAA, and so you got to think he's going to strike out quite a bit. So those of you
he's walked though, that's compared to some of these other guys we're going to talk about today, at least he's drawn Vientos has drawn some walks as well, and so it's not an all or nothing approach like some of the other guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so in on-base percentage leagues, he gets a little bit of a bump. In points leagues where strikeouts are counted against you, obviously he's going to get a downgrade. Like I said, I think he's going to get opportunity. The only problem is Eduardo Escobar has been hot off the IL, so he could lose a little bit of time out to Escobar, who's kind of trying to rehab his season here in the last little bit after being pretty disappointing.
Yeah.
Next 2 guys, I just want to talk about more about their next year value. Jazz Chisholm and Chris Bryant are likely done for the year. Chisholm is, I think, dealing with a back issue.
Yep.
Chris Bryant dealing with an everything issue. Are these guys you're going to go back to the well on? Because I think at this point we have to start discussing them as pretty injury prone. So are you going to be willing to? I think Chisholm will still be pretty expensive. I think Bryant probably still be pretty expensive being in Colorado. Are you going to spend a top 100 pick on these guys?
No. I was pretty aggressive with Chisholm this year. I took him, I want to say in the upper 70s, early 80s. I'm still in contention in a DC 50, and I've been anywhere from second to third, close to first, but it's going to be a run all the way here to the end. And he is, I haven't had him. He's just been one of the guys, one of the many that are on my IL 60 on that team, and I'm still hanging around. I don't want to quit him, but at the same point, back troubles. I need to see a healthy back, and the fact that this wasn't supposed to be something that was going to keep him out for the year, and it's already been 2+ months. And with Bryant, I mean, this is the first year of a contract. We knew the first year of big contracts in new places, as Rick and Glenn have often told us, are fraught with risk. But I don't think anybody foresaw this. That said, year 2, there's some profit in the market discount in those situations. But as you pointed to, him being in Colorado, it took until this season for Charlie Blackmon to start coming at a discount. And that's after how many years, and him being 35, 36. And, many of us were freely picking up Charlie Blackmon late and just, streaming him and enjoying it. But it's taken this long for that to happen. So I don't expect much of a market discount from Bryant. But that's the only way I'm going to get in on Bryant is if it comes at a discount. I would take Chisholm over Bryant because I don't have to worry about streaming Chisholm. I just have to worry about him holding up physically.
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. I definitely would take Chisholm over Bryant. I think the problem both these guys are going to be on every single article that is titled "Last Year's Trash is This Year's Treasure" or "Bounce Back Candidates."
I write that article every year. I know it.
And both these guys are going to be on there because they're, people are going, and that'll drive up the price. I think, Chisholm is such a flashy player and a fun player to watch that, his market probably, and he's still young, his market probably won't be crushed too much. And obviously Bryant being in Colorado is going to be, a huge boon to his ADP. So I just don't want these guys on my roster unless I'm getting a big discount. I don't think I'm going to get that discount though, unfortunately. Yeah. So I will likely be much lower on them than the market is. I mean, especially after, we've seen it. Injuries are, everywhere. The last few years, injuries have been awful, and that doesn't even include like COVID wasn't as big of a deal this year in terms of, guys going on the COVID IL, missing a lot of time. And so even without that, injuries were really bad this year. So like, I'm just not going to invite that onto my rosters for next season. All right, let's talk some FAAB. We don't have a huge list today, but I want people to remember that today is the start of football season. People will forget to do FAAB. People will completely turn their attention away to fantasy football. Yep. Those of you who are still listening, obviously you haven't done that yet. And you're going to be able to take advantage. And I often remind people, like, this is not the time to, like, take your foot off the gas. This is time to really, really press it to the floor because you can gain a lot more ground than people think at the end of a season. Luis Patino has come up. He's my boy. He is disappointing me greatly all season long. Are you picking up Luis Patino?
So his last outing, you look at the line score from the last outing. I'm going to pull it up. So we had 5 innings, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, 1 home run was legit, 3 walks, and 4 strikeouts. Now I bring up the line score because the 3 runs were a factor of the walks, but he allowed a 2-out rally to, this was the Yankee game. I forget, it was Boston. Sorry, it was against Boston. He allowed a 2-out rally, and they were first and second he had walked 2 back-to-back walks. And then there was a fly ball to center field that I honestly thought Jose Siri should have caught. Kevin Kiermaier, my record, my vocal record on him is well known. Kiermaier would have caught this ball. Siri is just as capable, if not better, defender than Kiermaier as far as covering ground. I thought he played that ball like there was 1 out and 1 guy on base at first base instead of 2 outs, because it was, I want to say it was Devers that hit it and Bogarts was up next. So it's like, make the play, trust your fielder. He had a backup behind him, but he allowed a weakly hit fly ball to fall in. That scored the runs. And to me, it was like, yeah, he allowed 3 runs in 5 innings, but that ball should have been caught. That said, it was his fault because Patino put those 2 guys on base with 2 outs. And that's honestly always been my issue with Patino. There are flashes of brilliance, but then the command just falls apart every now and then, and it takes him like 2 batters to get it back. And so, but the outing before that against Kansas City, he looked fantastic. I watched that entire outing. He looked fantastic. And then I was supposed to see him pitch on Tuesday here in AAA, but that's the same, or last week, but that was the same game that McClanahan got yanked during warmups. And so they yanked, and then we actually rained out that game here in Charlotte. So Patino didn't pitch that one, which is why he pitched on the 5th against Boston. He should be pitching, I think, Monday.
Today, I think.
He's pitching today against the Yankees.
Yeah.
Awesome. After especially yesterday, Kluber, that sucked, man. Kluber has been great of late, and then yesterday he just got death by single. But again, his own fault. His command sucked yesterday. It was very unclubot. I guess somebody forgot to unplug him and reboot him because he looked terrible yesterday. Terrible. And so that's the thing with Patino. It all comes down to command with him. And we've in his last 2 outings, we saw him look fantastic. And then we saw him hit a speed bump in the middle of the outing and had that issue. And now, they also recalled Yanni Chirinos is fully back from his injuries as well. And so I don't know if Patino's spot in the rotation is solidified or if he's like could get piggybacked and be like, okay, go out there and do this, and then we're going to take you out. But he has worked 5 complete each of his last 2 outings, but it's the walks. That's the final step. The stuff's all there. It's just the command has got to get more consistent, and he's got to help realign, get get realigned more quickly. You can't allow 2-out rallies with back-to-back walks like that. It's just unacceptable.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to go back to the well on him next year. I'm not quitting him. He's just too talented. Chirinos is going to be part of the doubleheader on Tuesday, so I think at least for another turn in the rotation, Patino is going to be in it after facing the Yankees today. Next week's start is going to be home versus the Rangers. So that's a pretty good start. Then he would be home versus Toronto and at Cleveland if he stays in the rotation.
That's a tough that two-step with Toronto and Cleveland in particular. Again, I've brought this up about Cleveland, very high contact team, toughest team in the league to strike out. That's a really tough matchup. I could see using them next week in the Texas, but really have a tough time using them in the two-step. Yeah.
The next guy on the list is Hunter Brown, who's been pitching well. He's got a really nice kind of line or next start. He's going to be at Detroit for his next start on Tuesday. And then the question remains on whether or not he's going to stay in the rotation. And this is something to really pay attention to down the stretch. Guys are going to get pulled out of the rotation, into the rotation. Guys are going to get skipped. Guys are going to have abbreviated start. So something definitely to pay attention to. I think Houston will be a little bit less herky-jerky, but once Verlander comes back, Hunter Brown may go back down to the minors. So would you be interested in streaming Hunter Brown this week against Detroit?
Yeah, I mean, Detroit's 27th in the league in strikeouts. So, yeah. But so the Houston thing, though, I mean, they're going to wrap up that division here in a week, right?
Any day now, yeah.
Yeah, and that division is going to be all but settled. And so, you could see an equation where they're not gonna send their starters out for that extra inning. You can do the 5 and dive, and then that's why you have this expanded roster right now. You're carrying a 9-man bullpen. You have 14 pitchers. Why not leave Brown up here to get the work so he can continue doing his thing? Because, I mean, he only works, when I was looking, he's worked 112 innings this year, and he worked 100.1 last year. So workload-wise, we're not in any kind of concern right now. So why not leave him up here and have him work on a 5th day and piggyback with an Urquidy or with a Garcia, something like that, or Verlander. You're bringing him back and slow play Verlander. Why not put him on the backside of that to try some things? But I could see Houston getting a little more creative with their pitching usage to keep everybody fresh for October.
Yeah, I could too. And I mean, you can't get a much better streaming start than at Detroit. I mean, it's about as good as you can, just as long as you're not like super low on FAAB and you can't waste the end of your FAAB on him, especially if you don't have zero.
I'm already out of FAAB in labor. I have none. I'm out.
Yeah, I think I've got like $3 or $4 left in Tout, but at least in Tout they had $0 bids, so that helps a lot. So yeah. As we all try to chase down Derek Van Riper, who has just started to run away with that Tout league. Good on him. He made some good moves down the stretch to really to kind of put him over the top. Still hoping to catch him though. All right, next guy on the list we've got is Dylan Floro. He's been getting some work at the back end of that bullpen in Miami. Is he a guy you think could be closer the rest of the way in Miami?
For their 1 win a week, maybe. I mean, he had a win and a save this week. So he's working high leverage in that regard. We did talk about Floro, I want to say about a month or two ago, and said this would be the option. This would be his role, high leverage, and maybe he gets some saves. He can get some decisions. And this week, that finally came to fruition. He hasn't really done much outside. I know he had a save in mid-August. So the opportunities just really haven't been there that often. I mean, Miami does play a lot of close games, but they tend to blow them late. So there haven't really been a lot of opportunities there for him. So if he has a role, 3 saves the rest of the way,
he could get more. Listen to the Marlins upcoming schedule. They finished their series today against the Mets, right? Yeah. But then they have a Texas doubleheader on Monday. Then they start a series against Philadelphia. Good team, right? The rest of it is pretty good after that, though. At Washington, home versus Chicago Cubs, home versus Washington. That's a pretty darn good stretch of some winnable games.
Is that doubleheader scheduled?
I think so. You're seeing
how would 2 indoor teams have a doubleheader otherwise? I know we have some scheduled doubleheaders this year,
Yeah.
but when you said that, I'm like, wait, indoor team. How did they get rained out?
We had a doubleheader scheduled against Milwaukee. That was in between two series.
All right, it must have been scheduled. I know I forgot they were scheduling doubleheaders every now and then. Because that's what you mentioned earlier with Toronto and Tampa Bay. There's a doubleheader this week. They have 5 games in 4 days.
Yeah,
and that's why.
Yeah, this is how they made up all those games lost at the beginning of the season because of the lockout. So
that's right.
I think Floro is an interesting gamble, especially if you're desperate in saves. I think if you've got a large gap to make up, obviously the Marlins aren't going to win a ton of games. They do have a good schedule here in the next week and a half, 2 weeks, but I think he's more of a like, hey, I'm a 1 save behind the guy, or I'm in a head-to-head categories league, something like that. For the playoffs, he's a good stream there as well. Josh Young, he made his MLB debut and went yard and stole a base. I'm pretty sure. I played in DFS that night. Wasn't enough for me to do much damage in terms of winning money. I won $2 on the $30 worth of entries I had.
Don't spend it all in one place.
I will try not to. I'll probably spend it today on DFS football, which I should never do. But he's a very interesting prospect. Remember, there was a lot of hype on him. I think coming into the season, got injured, has missed the majority of the year. I was actually surprised he came back. I thought he was going to be shut down for the whole year. But this shows a lot. He is the future at third base for the Rangers. Are you picking up Josh Young?
Yeah, I was surprised he came back because remember he was the one labrum surgery on the shoulder, so I was really surprised he was able to come back with this. Yeah, this was one of the guys I was foreshadowing earlier, and we were talking about at least he takes a walk, right? So Young's had 7 walks and 37 strikeouts in about 130 at bats this year between AA, AAA, and the majors with that. So he's going to be out there every day. Texas didn't call him up to sit. He'll be out there. He's going to be in the lineup every day because they obviously want to give him a head start on next year with it. It's just what's going to happen with that because we have Tristan Casas is the next guy we're going to talk about. Boston's doing that with him, and it's not going well. Yes, he does have 1 home run, but yes, he's had a lot of swings and misses. He did have 1 impressive plate appearance that I saw where he took a walk from Pete Fairbanks. And I bring that up as impressive because Pete Fairbanks has walked 2 guys all year, and Tristan Casas was one of them. And so that was impressive with that on that. So I just get concerned with the big power, and so let's lump in the 2 together. With Young's the better overall hitter. Casas has got the big power, but both of them have had strikeout issues in the minor leagues. And with Young in particular, because he missed so much of the season, he's still really trying to get his timing down. I mean, strikeouts have not been this much of an issue for him at previous stops, but he got hurt in the middle of March. He went down right as we were at the peak of draft season with things. So he's still trying to get his timing back. So it could get better for him. Of these 2 guys, I want Young the rest of the way because Casas right now in the stuff I've seen, if it's a mistake, he'll hurt the mistake. But overall, the at-bats have not been very promising. But, it's early for him. But the Red Sox are like, here, you're in. Bobby Dahlbeck, again, thanks for nothing. Wentz is, they sent him down. So it's like Casas is out there for better or for worse as the team continues to reshape itself for next year.
Yeah, I mean, I think both these guys are interesting prospects. I prefer them both over Mark Vientos, who we talked about earlier on in the show. I just think they have better hit tools all around. I'm not overly worried about Casas. I know that he hasn't looked great, and zone contact numbers are pretty bad right now. He's also not swinging outside of the zone very much, which is a really good sign. He's a guy who can take a walk as well. So I don't think I'm overly concerned. And honestly, I'm going to take him over Young. I know Young is going to be the more expensive guy in FAAB this week. Mm-hmm. And I'm just talking about rest of the way because he's part of that Boston lineup. And that Boston lineup can be so dangerous in spite of the fact that he is striking out a huge amount. Like that can turn, I mean, it's such a small sample, like it can turn around so quickly. I just think he's being a little bit overly aggressive. because he's, making his MLB debut right now. I think that he'll calm down and be fine rest of the way. And I just think he has a little bit better hit tool than Young. I like Young. I think he's going to play every day, and I think that he's probably got more guaranteed playing time being in Texas and them looking towards next year. So I think there are benefits to both. I think, obviously anytime you got a guy who relies solely on power and really needs to have that hit tool show in order to unlock it, there's some risk. But I think both these guys are viable down the stretch and should be picked up today. So you have options.
Yeah, I think Vientos, the final note I would say on him, he feels like one of those guys that would be dealt in the winter for them if they try to reshape the roster. Because if I remember correct, well, he's not as old as I thought. I was thinking he was a little older. He's not even 23 yet. He'll be 23 over the wintertime. But if you look at their contractual obligations out there, I don't know what future where they would be able to find room for Vientos, whereas they could move him to a second division club who has the opportunity for him to play for something they want.
Yeah, I'd be surprised. They seem to want to hold on to him. They could have traded him at the deadline. He would have been a very attractive guy, and they didn't make any major moves like that. So we'll see. They definitely have a glut of pretty interesting prospects right now.
Yeah, let's go Alvarez.
Let's go the opposite end of the spectrum and move away from guys who are prospects of guys who's kind of pretty much unknown. And he's come up and played small roles for the Giants this year. And I'm talking about David Villar. But right now, in the month of September, since rosters expanded and he got called up, he is hitting 345, 387, 828 with 4 home runs, 6 runs scored, 7 RBIs in 31 plate appearances. He's on absolute fire. You picking up David Villar right now?
Yeah, let's look. He's the more valuable VR this season. That's insane. Yeah. David has come up, as you said, since rosters have expanded. He has played every day. I'm looking at the roster resource, the lineup breakdown. He has hit 6th, 7th, or 8th. And he's played first base, second base, third base. So he's played 3 different spots, but he's been out there every day. He is the 13th best player over the last 7 days because of those numbers you just rattled off with that. So as long as he's getting these opportunities, we've seen crazier things in September, but as long as he's getting these opportunities to play in the lineup every day, and clearly they're using him in multiple positions, I saw somebody tweeting the other day, it just sucks when these late scratches on guys, and it's like, great, every plate appearance counts right now, and if I can get 4 plate appearances from a guy and he's going to play 6 days a week, there's 24. It's better than if I'm in a platoon situation with some things. But these are the kind of pickups you got to make in September. It may not be a name that you're like, but he's hot lately, and the club is rewarding him with that, putting him in a lineup every single day, and you should find a way to get him in your lineup as well.
Yeah, just for context, previously we were talking about Young and Costas, who were the number 1 prospects in their organizations prior to the start of the season. David Villar was the 33rd prospect in the Giants organization coming into the season, according to Eric Longenhagen over at Fangraphs. So not a whole lot of hype coming on the kid, but he's 25 years old. He's playing really, really well right now. He's hot. And there isn't enough time left in the season for some of these guys who are on hot streaks to cool off. And so you're going to ride it as long as it goes. I absolutely have no problem picking him up. Like Jason said, he is playing in multiple positions, different spots pretty much every day. I played second base yesterday, first base the 2 days previous. He played third base during that Milwaukee doubleheader that I mentioned.
And I don't see this, he's up because A, roster's expanded, but B, Brandon Belt was on the IL and Slater's gone on the IL. And it's like, these guys aren't coming back in any recent,
Belt's done for the year.
Yeah. It's like the job is his until he hits his way out of it.
Pretty much. And they're giving him the opportunity to do it. He's delivering. So yeah, I think he's the guy that's going to go really under the radar, I think, today in FAAB, especially with other bigger names on the docket. But yeah, I'll ride it, especially for cheap, a few bucks here and there. Next, we're going to finish out with 2 Cincinnati outfielders that are hitting well right now and worth picking up. But I also want to mention that I believe, and I'm double checking right now, I believe the Reds have 9 games this week.
They do.
And so, getting Cincinnati hitters this week is going to be very valuable. Picking up guys like Alexis Diaz or anybody who potentially could get saves on that team, it's going to be valuable as well. But I want to talk about TJ Friedel and Aristides Aquino, both who are hitting well and going to get a lot of playing time with this 9-game week. Are you picking these guys up?
I mean, Friedel's been hot. He has had he's had 5 multi-hit games in the last 7. I have him in the I believe he's in the aforementioned DC 50. He was somebody that I took preseason. And so when I'm looking at the games they have this week too, it is 4 against Pittsburgh, at least 4 against Pittsburgh, and then
4 against Pittsburgh,
5 against the Cardinals.
Yep, that's correct.
That's what it is. Mm-hmm. So that's what their schedule looks like this week. And so the Pittsburgh situation, those games are going to be better for them than the Cardinals ones. But that said, it's like, Friedel, like I said, I targeted him before the season. When I was looking at where he's playing, he's been hitting leadoff. He's hit leadoff for the past 6-7 games. He does not play against lefties. That said, he's got 6 righties this week. So he's going to get at least 6 of these 9 games and then pitch hit experience in some of the others. So it shouldn't be a concern there. Aquino has played all but 2 games of the past 2 weeks, and he's sitting further down the lineup. He goes into the all or nothing. If you're hurting for power, you're trying to find something here down the stretch. Sure. I'm more excited about Friedel here just because top of the lineup, a lot of righties this week. And he has the opportunity to get, 30 to 34 plate appearances this week with the 9-game schedule. Even though he doesn't start against lefties, he'll still get pinch hit experience. So again, taking the playing time route, go with Friedel.
Yeah, absolutely. Friedel's a guy that, for those who remember from the beginning of the season, I put on, or Paul and I talked about as one of my deep sleepers in DC's in the outfield. He's a guy I really like. I just need the opportunity. He's getting the opportunity on the stretch, and he's hitting really well. So he'd be my biggest target out of these guys. But Aquino is going to get a fair amount of playing time, especially with 2 doubleheaders during the week. 9 games, nothing to sneeze at. 4 of those games are versus Pittsburgh at home, and then you get the 5 at St. Louis. Both these guys are big targets for me in the outfield in a pretty not interesting week in FAAB.
I would like to see, the one thing with Friedel, he has 6 stolen bases this year. I know the last time we talked about Friedel on this podcast, we talked about potential hidden stolen base opportunities for him. Problem is, he has only attempted 1 stolen base since June 9th. Now, he hasn't been in the lineup he missed, he went June 18th and then came back to the lineup on August 16th, rather. But we're talking about 25 or so games that he's attempted 1 stolen base. And in a 9-game series, you would like to see him run. I don't know how much he's going to try to run on the Cardinals battery. There should be some opportunities for him against the Pirate battery. So if he can get on base and do that, we'll see what's there. But I would like to, in this 9-game slate here, it would be nice if he could throw in a steal or 2 along with everything else. The multi-hits are nice, and he's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7 runs scored during that time, driven in 3, but no steals. He has had 3 home runs in that mix, 1 at Milwaukee and 2 at the home series against the Rockies when he was in Great American Ballpark and had the 2 solo shots.
Yeah, it's surprising he hasn't had a stolen base since, or even attempted a stolen base since August 21st.
Yep,
but he's fast. So I guess it's hard to steal a base when you're just trotting around him. So maybe.
Hey, comment though, his last stolen base attempt was against the Pirates. So
there you go. Maybe there's something there.
We'll see what happens.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap us up for this episode, Jason. Sorry to send you back to work.
No.
Unfortunately, got nothing for you, but why don't you remind people where you can reach on social media and then talk about anything you got going on?
Turn those machines back on. So this week, as I said earlier, the Collette Calls column at RotoWire will be writing about Nathaniel Lowe and looking at his breakout season, if you will. I'll tell you, I tweeted about this yesterday. One of the things I love about diving into the numbers is like writing down a hypothesis, like, oh, he's having a good season because X. And I've talked about this. I've written about this, about Lowe. One of the things, the problems he had in Tampa Bay, and even when he got to Texas, was a hole in the top of the zone with velocity. He really struggled with velocity up in the zone. And so I was like, okay, last year he hit 190 on that, which was still better than what he had done in Tampa Bay. Let me see what he's doing this year. Well, he still stinks in that area this year. I mean, 95 plus up in the zone. So we're talking about the upper third of the strike zone and then the regions above that. If you go on Savant and check those boxes, he's even worse this year in that area. But if you miss down, he's making you pay. And he's hitting. So it's like, I want to dive into this because, again, as I was talking earlier about the conversation I had with Adam on Twitter about like, hey, how he's using the fields. I want to take a look into this because when you put yourself in the company of Arenado and Machado and Goldschmidt and Judge, as far as hitting 320 plus home runs this year, you should be getting more attention about like what's the process behind this. I did see an article this week from MLB Trade Rumors. They'll say, hey, he's having a good year and he's increased his value. It's like I want to know the how behind the why. Like, where did this come from? And I know Donnie Ecker. I mean, this from his time in the Giants. Awesome hitting coach.
Yep.
What did he unlock in Lowe to like, okay, hey, here's what you're doing. Here's what you could be doing to accentuate your natural abilities, because Ecker's got a phenomenal track record, and I know Eno was super excited about him going to Texas and looking at some Ranger guys as being undervalued, and it was one of the reasons I took Lowe in one of my leagues. Was straight on that. I mean, was just like gaga, or like, oh, Ecker's going to do some really nice things with some guys, and Lowe seems to be the guy that's benefited the most from that compared to where what we've seen previously. So that's what I'm working on. With that, won't be here next weekend because next weekend we're celebrating. I'm a man. I'll be turning 50 on the 20th, but next weekend is my like celebration here. My wife is saying, clear your schedule. So I don't know what's happening. I just know that I have my schedule is cleared next weekend, so I will not be here because I'm a man and I can't believe I'm turning 50.
All right. Well, congratulations on making it that far. You can reach me on Twitter at Justin Mason FWFB. Writing daily fan graphs. Had to take off the Friends Fantasy Benefits podcast last week because it was 115 degrees, and even at recording at 7 p.m., it was still 103 degrees in my office. So
you have no central air or heat in that thing, right?
Nope. I have insulation now, which is nice, but when it gets over 110, there's nothing you can do.
No.
I just wasn't going to sit here for 2 hours and talk to Dave while it was 103 degrees in here. So, but writing daily at Fangraphs, I should get back to all the podcasts this week. A lot of cool stuff coming up this off season. So stay tuned for that. For Jason and myself, thank you for listening. Have a fantastic end of the baseball season.
Hey, I know if some of you guys have already started tweeting us appreciation tweets for helping you win leagues already. So thank you for doing that. Congratulations on your success. As we always say, even if we can't win some leagues, we're happy to help others win leagues. And one of the things I tend to do every year is like, hey, if you want to say thanks in some way, we got to come up with some type of like, hey, make a percentage donation, 1%, anything. Find a way to say thank you. And it's because I do the same. If I win anything, I make a donation to something in that regard. But it's always nice to see those congratulatory tweets from other people and appreciation. Say, hey, thanks, you really helped me. Like Shelly won her league, and that's awesome. That she won. Was it Tout head to head?
Tout daily.
So that's awesome that she won that. And hopefully we helped her because she helps us with everything she puts out throughout the year.
I helped her by shitting the bed in the finals.
I think I helped her by recommending Jason Adam in April. I was like, hey, do not ignore this guy. So that's my contribution to Shelly's title with that. So hopefully she took him a few times because Jason Adams has been awesome this year with that. So yeah, I just wanted to get that note out there before I meant to bring that up earlier, but thanks because I've already seen a few of those come through, and it's it's always good to read those and help take joy in seeing other people's success, even if our seasons didn't go the way we wanted them to.
And I'll remind people I bought my tickets for FPAS this last week, so I will be there from Wednesday to Monday.
Same.
So I'm super excited. Danielle's coming with me again this year. So we should have an absolute blast. That is the first week of November, first weekend in November. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Highly recommend you go. If you can, definitely try to stay at the hotel. It's right across from Sloan Park, where a lot of the festivities are going to be held.
Same parking lot, guys. It's an L-shaped hotel. You walk. I stayed there.
Literally walk over. Yeah.
But I stayed in the extra night as well. I extended my stay, so I'll be there for the Fall Stars game because I was like, I can't miss that. So I'm now flying home on Monday. Definitely excited about that now, especially we're under 60 days. It's like, it's so close we can taste it now, baby.
Yep. All right, that will wrap us up for this episode. For Jason and myself, he's got to get back to work. Have a fantastic baseball season.
All right, guys, take care.